I'd like to. Yeah, writing on the wall.
Okay.
And they want, the year that I bowed out, they were runner-ups, state runner-ups.
Oh, I see
I
you.
played football.
Can you see us?
Was it extra innings?
Video was off.
Miss Harmon.
Was it extra innings?
No.
Really?
Got it.
And
So the game went on that long, huh?
There. How's
it
that?
started at 4 and it ended maybe, I don't know, around 6.
Okay. That's pretty standard.
It's 7 minutes.
You are getting this now.
No?
That's what it gets for me, leaving me alone. Okay, well, what more do you want to see? Brandy? There she
No.
is. Right there. The other way? Okay, all right, we're there. I'm gonna hang the phone up. What, up? So that's down there. All right, okay, all right, I'm hanging up, bye. We hear him, you're on mute. Okay, no, breath. So I'm good. Please, the ones that are in front of you. Okay, now talk. Oh, seriously, I've never. Oh. Okay, we're live streaming, everyone.
Are we recording?
Not yet, because I'm trying to get the mayor to talk. Yeah,
Remember last time you had to go turn something off?
good. I did.
It's
It's
in a
turned
different
on.
room.
Yeah,
It's turned
when
on.
Kay was,
Brian says it's turned on, but let's see.
I always kind of like to know.
Oh, the door's shut.
Um,
Chrissy, do you have my keys on you?
Yeah.
is this the sign in?
Please, thank you.
Of course, now, first of all, this is June 0, you know.
I don't know what I'm-
June 0.
Yes, I did see that.
Okay.
Yes. I was like, that's a new date.
Mhm. I know there's a new holiday in June, but
Why can I hear you on the phone but not hear you from the screen?
just put them on speakerphone.
In the screen, he is mute.
Hey, I got it pumped clear up to 48.
In the lower left corner of his screen, it has a mic with a.
That's because he's talking to you when he talks on the phone, he's on mute.
Oh,
What,
okay.
shall I hang up so you can try it again?
There you go. Well, congratulations.
Is that what it is? I don't know, they had an opening, I'm not sure. when it was.
I'm not that tech savvy. Give me a hammer and a wrench, I'm pretty good.
Might be good. Are you wanting to start you?
Yeah,
No, I
that's
didn't.
not
We
working.
understand.
Hello?
I'm gonna do it on the phone.
Hello?
Okay, that didn't work. So can I just put my phone down and you talk through my phone? Oh, you're looking? What about, okay, wait a minute. Talk, go ahead and talk. No, we're just hearing you on my phone. Okay, again, please. No. Here we go. Oh, wait a minute. Whatever you did, we heard you. What's that? Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded like a cough.
No, we heard you and then it went off. No. Nope. Still don't hear you. No, just, oh, wait a minute, something happened. It kind of clicked.
It's like something not plugged in or something.
Speakers are all turned up too.
Brad, can you hear me? Okay.
Let's try this. What about now?
Oh. Yes, I think that's it. Do it again.
Okay, I'll talk now.
Yes, I can hear you.
What did you do?
I don't know. It's something on my, I don't know.
Good, great. Okay, meeting's all yours. Let me start the recording.
Okay. That only took 7 minutes, but we'll call this meeting of June the 9th, 2022 to order. And Terry, since you're there, can you do a roll call?
Mr. Looney?
Here.
Mr. Mager?
Here,
Ms. Williamson? Here. Ms. McCreary?
Present.
Mayor?
I'm here, remote.
Okay.
All right, and then you're obviously there, and I saw a few minutes ago and heard a couple others, so I know there's visitors there. I assume they're there for the lot split.
Correct. It's Mr. Woods, Mr. Landis, and Holly's here.
Okay. Well, let's do the approval of the minutes from April 14th and May 12th first.
Okay, so May 12th is not minutes. That was BZA. I inadvertently put it on the Planning and Zoning Commission, but May 12th was our BZA hearing, so those are BZA minutes. So all we have is the April 14th.
Okay.
One question I had about the minutes, it references 38 single family units. I think it's 35.
Is it 35?
Is it 35?
I got that correction made.
there was one note here where I was quoted saying I stated that I have an issue with specified green space. I believe I actually said I did not have an issue with
And where is that at, Kim?
that was,
Can you direct me?
it's been on,
Fourth page. The second bullet.
I think, up here.
I know.
Fifth, I'm sorry, fifth page, second bullet.
Fifth page
Yes, the fifth page.
does not have an issue with specific green space.
With the lack of specified green space.
That's what it says, does not have.
Do you want me to
Uh,
correct?
But what I said was I did not have issue with the lack of specified. green
Okay,
space.
I can add that.
So,
Because I did the minutes. Barb
Okay.
had surgery on her hand, so the minutes are all mine.
So you can correct the spelling of
Yes.
individual.
Where are you?
At the top of that page, very first one.
Absolutely, I see it. Thank you.
That's about that.
He's my grammar coach.
All right.
Is there anything else?
All right, so with those changes, is there a motion for the minutes noting those changes that need to be made?
I'll move that the minutes be accepted as corrected.
I'll second.
Second, any further discussion? All right, roll call.
McCurry,
Yes.
Maloney,
Yes.
Mager,
Yes,
Williamson.
Yes.
Nick,
Uh,
Nick, do you want to weigh in? Are you good?
Yep. All right, so then we will move on to, well, visitors, but we know they're here for the new business. So if no one has any problems with that, we will jump straight into the new business, which is the Woods lot split. Terry, if you want to, because I think this is the first lot split we've done in a while, if you want to run everybody through kind of how it, just some of the background, and then we'll do the, before we open it up for questions, we'll treat it kind of like we do variances. We'll give everybody there an opportunity. We'll give Roger an opportunity to speak on behalf of it, anybody that wants to speak in favor of it or against it. And then, of course, the committee can ask questions. So, but Terry, if you'd give us a quick background first on just the lot splits in general, since it's the first one we've done in a long time.
Fear Nicodemus, I think before we get started, Mr. Landis would like to speak on the reason why he's not here tonight. The reason why his development is not on the agenda to hear tonight.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that under visitors real quick. I skipped over them, so go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Robert Landis. I'm just here to give you guys an update on the development. We're on pause for right now. Right now, I'm working with the school on some details about the retention basin they have and working through negotiations with them. So because the plan needs to be presented completely, can't really move forward with you guys until I lock down with them those final details. That way we don't approve something and have to make changes. So pretty simple. And I'm going to a meeting next Monday to hopefully keep moving that forward. So didn't want you to think I disappeared or got lost, but still moving forward, just a little slower.
Yeah. Appreciate the update. Does anybody have any questions for Robert while he's there on it, or if not, Robert, I imagine then we'll probably be seeing it on the July P&Z agenda?
Possibly. It depends on how Monday's meeting goes. Could be some more negotiation that's necessary. So, but I can be here and give an update. Maybe I can give a little bit more detail at that point too.
There you go.
All right.
All right.
Well, appreciate it.
Yep, thanks.
All right.
Holly, did you want to speak? No. Okay, we're good.
All right. So now do you want to give a background on lot splits and where they're at and what we're doing, just since it's, like I said, it's the first one we've done in a long time?
Okay,
Mayor, I think we just did one for Mr. Woods not too long ago. So
that's all right. Let me walk through it because Holly is also here tonight to observe and to advocate. So I don't mind doing that. So lot splits are approved by planning and zoning. They do not go through BZA. Mainly what goes through BZA is like variances, conditional uses, and appeals, those sort of items. Lot splits under 5 acres can be approved by myself, but I always have the option of bringing it to planning and zoning, which I do 99% of the time. So tonight you're going to hear a lot split. Mr. Woods has, if you remember last year, in I believe it was October, he had proposed a variance because the amount of street footage that he had that enters into his, I believe, 13 acres was not per code. It was less than the 100 feet needed. Then he, after having a variance hearing, we had one, then he decided to pull that variance. So earlier this year, he came to me and said, I have another way to go, and I'm going to do a lot split with my neighbor in front of me. So he has been gathering his information, having the survey done, and his packet is what you all have in front of you. So he has completed the packet. He has turned everything in that he needed. So he's here tonight to talk about his lot split. Okay, any questions?
And then with that, like I said, we'll treat it just like all the other stuff. So Roger, if you're there, if you want to step on up real quick and just give everybody an overview of your lot split.
Well, I've been working on this and finally got it done. So I've got 100 feet now, and looks like everything's okay. In case anybody's got any problems with it.
Does anyone have any immediate questions for Roger before we get into discussion? All right. Since I'm not there and can't see in, is there anybody else there that wants to speak in favor of or against the lot split? Terry?
I believe Mr. Landis would like to speak.
Okay.
Good evening again. I've worked with Roger on this project a little bit here in the recent past, and just keep a note that currently the lot's non-conforming, and this will bring it into a conforming lot. I think that's advantageous for both the homeowner and the village. And as a person interested in the village, I mean, I think it makes sense for the village to approve going from non-conforming to conforming. So I'm obviously in favor of that. Thank you.
All right. And Terry, included in the packet was the letter that we sent out to everyone, all the adjacent property owners, and there's no one else there, and we've received no other comments.
And that is correct. It was sent out, the list of homeowners that it went to is in the last page of the packet. The letter is just before that, and then it was also posted in our 5 posting places throughout the village.
All right.
Notification has happened.
All right. So then with that, we'll turn it over to the committee for discussion, questions. You know, tend to just have open discussion on these. So anybody have any questions on what was, I think there were, the application, the survey, the description, flood maps, map room approval was all sent out. So does anybody have any questions or just start the discussion?
I can lead off. B3, which is the engineering company, did review the packet and the survey and against our zoning rules and regulations, and said they had nothing, they were fine with it. There was nothing outstanding that we should be concerned with.
I just had an informational question. Are both the lots staying the same size? You just squared it out to where you have 100 foot?
Yeah, we traded foot for foot.
Well, good. That makes it pretty amicable then.
It does.
All right. Any other questions?
You stated that you're not doing this to make it a sellable lot. You're doing it to gain access to your other property. Is that correct?
I didn't say that. I don't want to be trapped into not selling it someday.
Okay, I'm just looking at your statement here. This will gain him access to the bulk of the property at the end of the proposed lane. So
That's my statement,
okay. So,
which is exactly what it does.
okay. But it also makes it a sellable and buildable lot with the adequate road frontage, correct? Okay, so he can build a house there or he can use it for access, either one, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
With this additional footage, if it is passed tonight, that does make it a conforming lot.
Mr. Looney, you got any questions?
Not really. I mean, just a comment. It seemed like it makes sense.
All right. Brandy, any questions?
No, it's gonna be correctly conforming to our regulations, so no.
All right. Might be one of the quickest ones we've done then. Is there, if there's no more discussion, is there a motion to approve this lot split?
I'll move to approve the lot split.
I'll second that.
In a second. All right. And now we get to have more discussion. Any more discussion on approving the lot split? And I'll say, I think it's listed as a lot split, but it's kind of a lot split / combination since they're trading foot for foot. The new parcels that are getting split off get added onto their existing parcels just on the opposite sides. But I told Terry we should do that all as one, even though lot combinations are not the same application and fee, but because of what's going on here, I didn't think that would be appropriate. So, any other discussion on this lot split? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Looney,
Yes.
McCurry,
Yes,
Williams,
You mean Williamson?
Williamson, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Wander,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. All right, 5-0, the lot split will be approved. Roger, Terry will get you your paperwork approval this week or early next week, but you were here and you know it's been approved. So I don't know. I think you actually need Terry's paperwork before it goes back to the auditors to record. But I'm sure she'll get that to you here in the next couple of days.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Roger. All right. Then with that taken care of, we'll go back to old business, which we have ponds, which we have a draft ordinance to review that had been sent out. I know we went back and forth a couple times on that, and then I know Jeff worked on it with Terry. So did everybody get a chance to review the draft ordinance for the ponds?
Just a little bit of explanation. Along with the ordinance, you see some articles in the back that Jeff had just did research on and just wanted to supply to you in case you wanted to do any changes to the ordinance itself. So.
And remember, once we being planning and zoning passed this, it goes to council. I forget, Terry, did we have this as one of our public hearings?
I do not believe so.
Yeah, I don't think we've had a public hearing on this one yet. So if you want to approve this tonight, or we can look at it, discuss it. I'm not anticipating this one being extremely controversial. We can set it for a public hearing next month, right before our planning and zoning meeting, or to correspond at the same time at 7 p.m. And so that way we have our public hearing, and then if there's any changes based on those comments, we can discuss them before sending it to council. But does anybody see anything immediate on it that seems out of line with what we discussed or what we had talked about?
So Terry, the additional pages are just,
for your, yeah, research that Jeff did,
okay,
that he said that he just wanted everyone to look at to see if there's anything you would like to add.
so we don't need to be concerned about the incorrect spellings in that section.
That I'm not responsible for.
My only concern under maintenance F, shall be maintained in good condition. Is kind of an opinion and it seems rather ambiguous to me because your good might not be my good. I think that we need to support that with some
Specifics. I agree, because that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Pretty vague.
The flip side to vague is it gives us flexibility and it uses the discretion of the code enforcement officers and zoning administrators. And then if there's an issue, it can go into court for determination. If you start saying it shall do this and shall do that, we could end up with a pond, and I'm thinking of other code stuff I've dealt with, but you could end up with a pond that fits the definition of the code, but otherwise does not look good, is not aesthetically pleasing, may not be in good condition or secure, but checks all the boxes that we might come up with. So in a lot of these, it is intentionally a little bit vague, so that you don't paint yourself into a corner.
So who's going to be the enforcer of what's good?
So what would happen is it would be under probably our code enforcement, or Terry and zoning could do it. But so if code enforcement goes around and thinks that it's not in a good condition or secure, the person gets a notice of violation. When they get that notice, they get the opportunity to appeal it and say, no, I think you're wrong, or correct it if they agree. And then if they don't appeal it and change minds, or they don't correct it, then they get a code violation and the magistrate in court will determine if it's in good condition or not.
And whose responsibility would it be to educate the magistrate as to what we consider good?
So the magistrate will hear the evidence, if the person takes it to a trial, why they think it's in good condition. And the village prosecutor would have Terry testify, or the code enforcement officer testify as to why they think it's not in good condition.
You being in this field, what's a typical timeline for something like this to be resolved? I'm just thinking of the neighbor who might be having to live with an infestation of mosquitoes the whole time this is being.
So on a code violation, you get, if they haven't had any others, you get a notice and then they get 10 days to cure. And then if they don't fix it, they get their summons into court. So it depends on how responsive the homeowner is to their notice of violation.
But to the mayor's point, they do have a time. So in the letter they get, it states that you have 10 days from the date of this letter to comply or fix this violation. And then at that end of 10 days, then we do another drive-by or look at, and if it's not done, then we just summons them in court.
How is court scheduled?
Court is scheduled, mayor's court I can say, bring them in the next time. They meet twice a month. And then whatever happens in the court is up to the magistrate of our court. So, and she may give them 30 days to rectify it. She may say, oh, it's bad enough. No, I'm not giving you 30 days. Or she may give them 60 days. It's again up to her what she wants to do based on the evidence she's given from me. I usually, when I present a case to the magistrate, I have a packet that has all the times that I've been there to visit, exactly what kind of notification they got and a lot of dated pictures.
In this draft, this is all there is to it, just the front, back of the
Right.
page.
Yes.
Because quite honestly, I feel like there ought to be more conditions there. I think we're being, and Mike, I don't like a lot of words and a lot of regulations, but a pond can cause a lot of issues. And I've been, made points on several of these others. I'm guessing these are other municipalities.
Yes.
That
Jeff
we
did
prefer
that
to solve
research.
that.
Correct.
I like some things in there. Like setback requirements. One on here was about on shall meet all requirements of soil and water conservation districts. Again, this is not in my wheelhouse as far as knowing the specifics of it, but it can greatly affect neighboring properties. I think, we have to be very careful about ponds.
And I believe that's the purpose of this. Remember, we talked about this for a very long time.
Right.
We came up with a piece of legislation so you could see what it would look like. And now it's time to discuss that and input whatever you need to.
Right.
Correct me?
But we're saying that there's a zoning permit required.
Yes.
And so that's where our overarching. Yes.
Okay.
Leaving it kind of vague, so that way then upon the
And the
Applying for
larger ones
permit.
require a variance.
Right.
So
That's
that's
correct.
our controlling influence also.
I think that the 5 suggestions that Jeff had would all be good things to add as conditions.
All 5 pages?
No.
Oh,
And
okay.
in this email that you sent on,
Oh, that's right. I
May
did
9th.
copy mine.
it was for the last meeting, but we didn't end up getting the
Mhm.
things. So he recommends the side slope ratio 3:1. Location. I think one of these reference rear yard only. It makes sense. The setbacks seem to be a common thing throughout these other
Right.
municipalities as well. I think that makes sense. Refilling of excavations. Yeah. Sense
Right,
all
yeah.
these things.
Yeah, I looked at the same thing as well. I actually forgot I had it with me, so glad you reminded me of that.
I do even like some of these, or at least one of them references requiring an engineer to design it or a landscape architect. Some sort of professional, I mean, obviously you wouldn't need that for a koi pond, but
Right.
for a pond that's going in within village limits, that could affect neighbors. It seems like some sort of engineer buy off on it.
Those would be things that we could add as conditions if we were granting a variance. So rather than overly detail it here, somebody says, oh, I think I want a pond. They come in and asked for a variance, we look at the location, we're like, okay. Now, to be able to do it, you have to do all these things.
Yeah.
Those are the conditions of the variance. And if you can't do those, then the variance will be denied. Am I correct, Terry?
Mayor?
Yeah, when it's a variance, the group can put those conditions on there. So for the suggestions Jeff made, it might be best to look at for, I guess it's for conditions number 2, ponds of 250 gallons to 1,000 gallons. Those are the ones that we'll review and get to approve, but we don't have as much leeway as a variance to require certain things on. So, you know, if some of the setbacks or some of the other suggestions, you know, which ones would you want on that particular size of pond? It might be the best way to look at it, because you're right. When we get down to the bigger ponds over 1,000 gallons, the BZA can put on whatever conditions they deem appropriate.
So that's kind of my thoughts. So if we look at the sizes, 1, 2, 3, and 4, you know, do we want an engineer to look at just 3 and 4 or just 4? Or do we want to put that in here? I believe that one, to me, would be an important one to put in, as opposed to hit someone when they come to want to, you know, say, put in 1,000 gallons, and all of one say to them, oh, by the way, you have to have an architect design it. I think they need to know that up front. That if they're going to put in that large of a pond, they better, in fact, that could be a part of what they have to submit with their permit, is the drawing from the architect.
I feel like setbacks are kind of in that boat too, because you might just not even have the space. And it's like.
Yeah, I think we need to have the bigger points there, the ones that are going to be a make or break people. And there seems to me, you know, that's where you can ask for variance, saying, well, I don't have 100 feet, but I can do 79. But I think we need to have a few more guidelines in there. And again, I don't like having too much there, but I think this is an important enough item. We need to have some of these things in the code, I believe.
Terry, when they said that they have to have a zoning permit,
Mhm.
that's you, right?
That
Okay.
is correct.
So if they come requesting a zoning permit for a pond, you can say, okay, if it's agricultural or residential, you're gonna have to have it designed by an architect or civil engineer. Are you willing to do that? Well, no, I don't think I want it that bad. Done.
Probably the application will be a separate application, and on there, at the top of it will be the different types of ponds that they want to apply for. So, and that will help narrow down exactly what they need. So I think we're saying the same thing.
Okay, so, but that's where, when they say, get the idea to do a pond, and, well, you have to go in and apply for a zoning permit. And that's when you can remind them of these things that it's going to have to comply with. Okay, are you going to be able to have it done by a civil engineer? Are you going to be able to have the adequate setbacks? Are you going to be able to, you know, those things before they actually even apply?
Yes, I envision an application much like your last split one you just have. If you notice on the bottom, it says, please provide the following information. And the application is not complete unless I receive all of that plus the fee. So I see a pond application being read out much the same way. Thoughts? I think my battery must be dead. Mayor, thoughts?
I'm now that I'm hearing everybody, I'm kind of in agreement that some of those conditions should be more laid out there for everyone. Looking through the ones Jeff gave, I mean, location of pond and setbacks, I think, applies to those ponds, what, 1, 2, and I guess 1 and 2. I guess I'm trying to think of the devil's advocate situation, and I'm having a hard time coming up with it at the moment.
So that means we're going along the right track then. Because I do agree that maybe these things that Jeff suggested would be good in there. So what we could do is take Jeff's suggestions. I can get with Jeff. We'll work him into the ordinance and then come back and present that again.
That'll work. Now, knowing that we'll add some of this in, because we can always change it, does anybody have an objection to us going ahead and scheduling the public hearing at the next P&Z meeting so we can get public input on this while we're discussing it as well? And because, I mean, we have to schedule those so many days out, and so we're already into July.
I think it would be a good idea. The public can respond to it at the same time that we review it, and then we can decide using their input as well as ours, what we want to keep. And I'm assuming this would go in the section D conditions.
Yeah.
Would it also make sense if we're kind of like going down this path to break out the water gardens and koi ponds like this example has? From section 1131.15.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Under D,
Yeah, under D.
what code is spelled out.
Is it?
Because like some of these things may not really apply to the koi pond. But setback. Why have a fence around it? If it's a certain depth or something. Or
Yeah, there's some of these factors definitely are only gonna really apply on a real pond, I'm sorry, not a water feature.
So it seems like there's like a tiered application of some of
Yes.
these. Tier 1,
Well,
tier 2, tier
Have
3.
that incorporated into what Terry would look at as to. I noticed I was concerned about the fence, because it says the perimeter fence can be waived upon request by the owner of the subdivision.
Oh, that was
On the back.
yeah. I don't know whose that was, but
Yeah, that's the same.
Shall we do this like we did in the past? Everybody send me what they would like to see in it, and then we put everything in it. And then we evaluate it and take out what we want to vote it out from there. Yes.
I would like to do that.
And then still schedule the public hearing.
Yeah.
I've read through these others that, from other municipalities, I'm guessing. I kind of picked and choose ones I liked. And some of these I would definitely like to see added.
Maybe you'll let us know when you schedule the public hearing so we can get it to the.
Do you think we need the public hearing and the Opera House, or do you think this will be a mellow public hearing? I mean, I don't know how to.
I think we'll be okay to schedule it there in the council chambers.
I really do.
I think so.
I think, because the other night we had 3 rows of chairs here, for the council meeting, so we got quite.
I can't imagine.
Nobody got 6.
There's that many people
I'm good.
in the village that are interested in ponds anyhow, quite honestly.
Okay. All right.
Under the pond on this one.
I walked into that one. Or waited.
Yeah.
Oh, it's getting better. All right.
All right. So we'll set that public hearing then for the next meeting. We'll just, everybody's, in the next couple days or week or so, get Terry what we want into it. Into the ordinance, and we will see if anybody shows up at the public hearing, and then we'll continue our discussion of the ordinance at the next meeting in July.
Do we want to think of it as conditions to be considered?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the public hearing is what precisely?
Did you hear Holly's question?
Said the public hearing is, and then it cut out.
Precise purpose, what is its legal purpose?
So the public hearing, whenever we do a zoning change, a zoning code change, there's actually 2 public hearings. The first one is for the Planning and Zoning Commission to be able to gather public input on the proposed changes. And then there's another public hearing for council to also receive public input on the proposed changes. So public can come and, yeah, they like it, no, they don't. Or as often happens, ask some questions, make some suggestions, and then the committee reevaluates and talks about those concerns that are brought up in determining what to send to council.
Okay, because I was concerned that this is the one and only public hearing, that it doesn't seem right that there's not like a finished ordinance ready for them to review.
No, and actually some places will actually do a public hearing first before they draft their ordinance, because they want to get the input first. Now, when it goes to council, we've already kind of have the ordinance, and we'll update it a little bit, and then that'll go to council, and then council again also has a public hearing on it.
But Mayor, isn't their public hearing is only if they decide to initiate it as legislation? They can just let it die, can't they?
Well, if it gets onto the agenda, it would go on for a first reading, and they can't pass it they can't vote on it actually without having a public hearing.
I thought they could just make a decision as to not even initiate it as legislation.
I mean, they could, well, typically the way we do it is once this committee sends it up, we'll put it on the agenda for a first reading. I mean, technically they could table it and say never schedule a hearing, but I don't see that happening, and B, we would schedule the public hearing anyway on it, so that it can have a vote up or down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you for the explanation.
Yep, okay. All right. So then that takes care of old business. And then we have 5 things on for pending discussions, with number 1 being parking. It's 10 till 8. So Terry, I know you said you wanted to at least start a discussion on parking.
Correct. I would like to start, I see parking in two, how do you want to say it? two lanes. First lane is parking for our businesses downtown. And the second is parking for our residents. So I don't kind of want to get the two confused. So I thought I would like to move with the downtown one, since we are growing exponentially downtown with new businesses. Now, we had the hearing or the variance granted last week, our last BZA meeting for the bakery, but I do not feel it's right. We keep bringing all the new businesses in and telling them to pay $350 more to get a variance to park. I think it's something that I think we can address, and without, we can address and make it a set rule as opposed to making them to incur more expenses just to obtain a variance.
So you're talking about obviously our parking stuff in the code 1272 and what we require for some of the business parkings.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And I think we mentioned that during that variance too, that was something. Do you have any specific thoughts or suggestions at the moment?
I do. So in the back of your packet on parking is the matrix that currently is in, I know it's very hard to read, very small print, is currently what we have in our rules and regulations. And as you can see, when it talks about a business, and let's take medical and dental offices. Okay, so what it's saying is that they have to have 4 spaces for the first 1,000 feet of their area. And then for every 1,000 after that, 1 more space. Well, even the 4 spaces might be tipping somebody over. Now, so let's talk about the farmhouse. So the farmhouse down the street does not have any on-site parking. All of their parking is on the street. And of course, it was like that for the business before that and the business before that. So this, she cannot conform to this, 4 spaces and then another space for every 1,000 feet without counting the parking spots on the street. So I think there needs to be something said or incorporated that says if on-street parking is available, that should count. Does that make sense? Not be reserved parking. I think this matrix tends itself to say reserve parking of 4 spaces. And what I'm trying to say is that, I think it's not written, typed out, you need 4 spaces specifically for the bakery, but I think it kind of lends itself that way. I just think that we need to just decide among ourselves when they don't have on-street parking, which, let's face it, any business in either one of our downtowns is probably going to be in the same situation. Does that make sense? Except for Ken. So.
That makes sense. Isn't this just a matter of math? Like what we have, like downtown isn't expanding, right? So can this even be possible to have?
And that is a good point, because if you stop and think about it, we have the Pine House, we have the drugstore, and I'm not sure where they have parking in back or not, but start counting the parking spots. There's not 4 times 3, 12 parking spots there. And we have a coffee shop going in, and I'm already having some complaints coming from that parking. So I think you're correct. I don't even think this is possible in the downtown. Is this possible at the Ace Hardware? Yes. Is this possible at the dollar store? Yes. But is it possible in our older downtown? No. And I think that's what we have to account for.
So is it something, Terry, that we look at separating the parking, new build facilities versus existing structures? And I hate to go back to our, downtown overlay, but essentially you know, downtown areas have different parking requirements than if you're, you know, buying 3 acres of land to build your new building.
I would like committee's input on that, but that would be the way that I would want this to go.
I don't see it right now, but I was thinking when we redid the zoning code several years back, that we said downtown businesses, if they had on-street parking, that could be used towards the overall park. I don't see it right now looking through the code though. Maybe I'm thinking general business, I'm not sure.
Yeah, right. Well, here's the problem is we said, yeah, in downtown mixed use district, any on-street parking located within 500 feet of the subject side that can be accessed by sidewalks and crosswalks shall be counted toward off-street parking requirement.
Correct. But this is where we get in trouble. So Pine House counts the same parking spots that the drugstore does.
Right, and I
That's-
think that's okay. I think that's okay in downtown mixed use. Because it's any on-street parking counts towards the off-street parking requirement. And the definition of on-street parking is multiple businesses are going to use it and count it. I think the question becomes, the bakery that was in for the variance, are they downtown mixed use?
Yes.
What are our parameter numbers for that?
What does that mean?
How do you decide?
By the zoning map.
Oh, okay.
The zoning map calls out all of the zoning districts by color.
So it's got the downtown mixed use.
Right.
Marked on it.
Right, so in this case, anything red that you see here is downtown mixed use. And then you can see it jumps over here because we have the other downtown.
Well, does that provision right there, Terry, that any on-street parking located within 500 feet counts towards off-street parking, does that solve the problem?
So we could count spaces that aren't in downtown mixed use, but they're within walking distance to downtown mixed use.
And
I'm
for-
agreeing.
and for just a commercial property, I think that works good. Now, where my concern was on the bakery was that some of those are residential as well. And
Right,
when you have residential, you have cars that might be sitting there longer than a half an hour or an hour.
right. And
Um,
she, if I remember, was in the general business district. Even though everything around her was a downtown mixed use, she was
Okay.
in the general.
Okay.
And that's where there was an
That was a
issue.
difference, then,
Yeah.
okay.
That was the issue.
Can we just vote to put her in downtown mixed use?
Well,
That's a change of the zoning district, which has to go through council.
and we've already give her a variance.
Yeah, she has.
But we were talking about giving her money back too.
But it seems to me we've already got this covered.
I believe now,
With-
Ken, I agree with you.
Yeah.
What, Terry, to address though, those few businesses like the bakery that's in general business, but right next to downtown mixed use, would it make sense to say in the downtown mixed use district and general business district, any
That's-
on-street parking located within 500 feet counts as the off-street parking?
Because as you go north on Main Street, there are a couple of, well, the dog grooming places up there, but she has her own parking. But there is a possibility, all of that is general business. Someone could buy a house there and turn it into a antique store or whatever. So yes, I like that. Adding downtown mixed use and general business to that paragraph. I think that would solve the issue.
Because we want to support
Absolutely,
business,
absolutely,
not restrict.
absolutely.
So if everyone's in agreement, because that's also a zoning code change, we can add that to our public hearing next month as well. And that's a simple change because that's just adding one additional district to that one phrase in
For parking.
C 127210C. down there to do that and clarify that.
I think that is what I call a simple and viable solution that we really do need.
Cool.
In past discussions, I think you had mentioned that Rick Foreman had mentioned that the parking requirements were too much in general. Is that, what, do you know what that viewpoint is?
I do not, but this is what I can do. I could send a letter to those new businesses such as Mr. Foreman's, such as the Tasty Freeze, and such as Dollar General store, and ask them what they thought of the parking requirements to go along with our discussion under parking requirements, if you wish.
Now, we did cut down the numbers that were required in the old code from our new code.
We did, that is correct. I think that Rick's was under the old code and
Yes.
not the new one. And I do believe you're right, Mr. Monger, we did cut back a bit.
I think we've already pared that down, so I don't think we're out of line.
Yeah, if you look at Dollar General, I think that's just about right.
I agree.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like Rick, even though generally he only uses 25% of his lot. There are times that lot is full, and not just farmer's market, but normally like Christmas sales, that type of thing.
I don't think he was talking about Ace Hardware. I think he's just talking about 501.
Well, he was complaining about what he required at Ace Hardware as well.
Yeah, it was at
Uh, But I don't think our requirements for retail, something like that, is really out of line.
I think it's right. So that's really all I want. That's all I wanted to talk about as far as parking for this evening was just I'm concerned, like Kay said, that we're supporting our new businesses in town, and I wanted to make sure that we're moving forward on that.
Well, and but you can also move the pending discussion now up to for parking up to probably new business, or because we'll have it on at the next meeting. We'll set it for the public hearing at the same time, and we'll have the draft ordinance for the committee to review. And that takes one of our pending discussion items away.
Very good, very good. That's all I have tonight, then, Mayor.
So Terry, you were concerned about the barriers and drainage and lighting and all that. It was just,
For right now, I was just concerned about the number of
Numerical.
parking spaces for the new businesses relocating in their downtowns.
Wasn't there something also brought up about some of the current larger parking areas like churches somehow being part of the conversation? So if we add the 4 businesses that are coming in down here, I'm thinking about parking and the number of spaces that are going to be needed. Some of these churches are very centrally located, but
And I think it's a conversation we have to have with the churches, you know, if that's what they would want to do. The pizza shop that's going in across the way here, of course, they have that nice parking area there, so their parking requirements were easy.
it's already full before they've even opened. Yeah.
Yeah, but then that's again, you know, we can't assign parking places too
Right,
much.
right,
you know.
right.
Right.
And then the coffee shop has 4 of them in the back on site. But then the rest have to be on the street, and that area is kind of a little bit congested at times, shall we say. And then the farmhouse is on the street, and then the bakery's on the street, so, yeah. I think by doing what we're going to do will help, will be more welcoming for new businesses, and I think help solve the problem.
it's a good problem.
Yeah, it is a very good problem right now, and that's why I want to keep.
Yeah.
All right,
That's all I have, Mayor.
that's it. All right. Does anybody else have anything? If not,
Have we noticed the water lately?
You want to talk about water?
Well,
I mean,
all the little maps showed all the little lines headed to the basin over there. There was not that much water in the basin, but there was an awful lot of water lying there on the property that Faith Lutheran owns and is adjacent to Christ Methodist.
I think talking about that water, Mayor, is appropriate at this time, since that was brought up during the original design, concept design that Mr. Landis had presented. I know he's not here, but we did some investigation and we found out that there is a broken pipe or something that is not allowing the water in that area to drain. So we have put that on our list we are compiling new storm drains are refurbished storm drains, and that's number one on our list. So later on, either this year, if we have the money, or next year it will become a project and that area should be fixed. It's the way it's draining. It's not allowing the water to drain the way it should, and it should be draining to the west and not to the east. So I think we found that issue. We did some elevation shots and also traced what we had on our maps, and that's what we came up with.
Were you able to find that other drainage system that was put in that is, it involves the school and the area that Mr. Landis bought in the Lutheran church?
I found agreements among the three of them for construction, but nothing after that. And that's something that I need to show Jeff what I have and see where we can go with that. But the issue of the water accumulating on the church parking lot right now, I believe we have identified the root cause.
Okay.
The other issue with Mr. Landis is that, I did find agreements in an old file folder that was between the church, and the church signed one, the village signed one, the previous owners that were there.
Homes.
Yes, and then the school signed one. So there are agreements to do joint work together. So I'm not sure what that work is. I'm still searching. I've had to go through back some old boxes that were.
Okay. So, all right.
So whose pipe is that to repair? Is that the village's pipe?
Yes,
Okay.
it's on the west side of the street. You know exactly what it is and what we need to do.
Okay. I'll let the Luthers know.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on that? Anything else to bring up and discuss tonight? If not, we had a very productive meeting because it took 5 minutes to get my audio working. And so we've only been productive for an hour and we covered a lot. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. Motion second. Discussion. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.
And for discussion, we all have homework.
Yes.
So are you going to send us out like an email, or we just need to send the stuff directly to you, or what?
Let me get this off of you too.